Hello and welcome to the Green Team, where a weird little patron spin-off of the Legendarium. We discuss the books and topics our favorite podcast hasn't gotten around to yet. I am Hurinfan and I'm joined today with Starkast.
Hi.
And today we are talking about short stories. Since this is Starkast's idea, could I ask you what prompted this quick, easy episode?
Well, for one, for once, I just wanted to talk about short stories, kind of when if it's not obvious. Uh, well, because I'm kind of kind of in a spiral with short stories, like
Interesting choice, spiral.
yeah, like you can't escape it from it anymore once you start it. I think I have read already. Oh God! I think half of my reading were just short stories this year, or well, or I should say better, short story collections. And so I wanted to make a episode on it, and yeah, you were so nice and said yes.
Sounds good. All right, so shall we start with our discussion questions then?
Well, I have a question for you before that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because I also kind of want to know how you got into this because it I think if I'm remembering correctly, it has a funny parallel. I don't know
Um,
if you may if you may know it.
I shouldn't say that's why I got interested in short stories, but yes, that has given me. Okay, yeah, that's a decent story. Chesky, a mainstay on our Discord server, once joked about doing 365, or maybe it's 31 books on Goodreads in 31 days. And I said, well, why don't you just go for 365 and 365? And I kind of just went for it. And I was like, hey, I could do it with short stories because they take like sometimes 5, 10 minutes to read.
Mm,
Uh, and I'm doing pretty well so far. I think I have over I think I have over 90 read stories this year, so I'm
yeah.
on track. And I haven't read that many short stories this month, so I'm
Mm,
doing pretty well.
yeah. No, because Zesky has also the fault to well get me into this spiral.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if you remember, but in 2022 we had that Discord thing where every month someone hosted and there was a specific theme. And April of that year, Zesky hosted, and he did short stories. And for 31 days, I only read short stories. And after that, I was back to normal full-length novels. But I noticed that over the time, for some reason, my books got shorter and shorter and shorter. And then I think 2023, I was like, oh, I am only reading a short stories collection now.
Is that still true?
Mostly, yes. Uh,
Wow.
like, how should I say? I have read a little bit over 20 books, and I think eight of them are short story collections, and another three or four are short stories.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we got another question here. It says, where do you find our short stories, and where do you think is a good way to start?
Uh, yeah, that's a question that I thought would be interesting to the listeners,
It's a good
especially
question.
yeah, because I thought like it's kind of hard to get into them, especially if you don't know where to start. Like I, for example, never expected to find like websites, like professional websites and magazines where they are where they have short stories for free. Like there is a bunch of those, like Uncanny, Lightspeed Magazine, Escape Pod, which is also a podcast, and like I thought maybe I could just put them in the description so everyone can find them easily.
I think it's a great idea.
So yeah, so if you are listening, I will put all of my resources, like where I find free short stories, like just in the description notes. And other thing I really like short story collections from specific authors, because I think it's a really good way to learn about the author, like get to know their style and their
Themes.
yeah, their themes. Do you have any specific?
You basically took my answer. The way I used to never ever read short stories. I just wasn't
Mm,
interested in them. I think what happened was Reddit bingo years ago. I did it once, and like, okay, read 5 short stories. I'm like, well, these are actually pretty good, and I like them a lot.
mm,
So every once in a while, I'd pick up a small short story collection, or like you, I would find free, legally free short stories online. Lately, I've been listening to them on YouTube from
mm,
or on podcasts, which there are lots available. And I've just been searching with short stories by authors that I already know and like,
mm,
and it's expanding my brain a lot and expanding my horizons and like seeing what they can do. And also just like Googling what are considered some of the best short stories.
mm.
There's a lot of really good short stories out there,
Cool.
and
That reminds me of something, like two things specifically. The one thing about authors, I can recommend to everyone, if you have a specific author you really like, go to their website where they have their stories listed, and there you can find really easily all the short stories and if they are free or you have to pay for them. That's how I started, really, like with Aliette Bodao and Mary Robinette Cowell.
yeah, and a
And
lot of times, even if they're charged, they're incredibly cheap, like
yeah.
$1 US or something.
Mhm. And wait, what was the other thing I wanted to say? Okay, got it. Ah, yeah. Because you said you really want to read just good short stories. Um, like at the really tail end of last year, like it was the first book I finished this year. Um, it was the best American science fiction and fantasy series, and every year they bring out a new collection, and I just started them because I was curious. Because what how good can they be? Like,
Mhm.
uh, and oh my God, they're so good. Like I didn't expect it. Like okay, it has its problems. Like every collection that says it's the best of the best. But just if you just want to read really good short stories, that's also a great starting point, I would say. So I wanted to just throw it out because a lot of short stories on my list are also from there.
Oh, great.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall we get into it then?
Uh, yeah.
All right. So my first pick is a very old classic by a very famous author who kind of, I shouldn't say he started a genre, but he is very, very influential, and that is H.P. Lovecraft. And this
Mm,
story, I like Lovecraft. Well, I like his stories at least. Um, and I've read everything he's ever written actually. But when I think of Lovecraft, I always go to his novellas first. But
mm.
finding a short story was not difficult in the least, and I chose The Color Out of Space.
Okay.
If anybody have you ever read Lovecraft?
No, I haven't. I have read people who yeah, were inspired by him, but I never read Lovecraft himself.
Um, but so you get the idea of like what he's all about and like
Yeah.
indescribable entities and the smallness of humanity and it's kind of an existential dread and
Mm,
a mm, very old ancient understandable entities controlling. It's very conspiracy-esque. But The Color of Space is a story of a like a meteorite hits a house and it kind of infects everything and like there's this color that's like infecting people, and it's a color they've never seen before. Um, it's a short, very I don't know, good for what you want from Lovecraft. Introduction to Lovecraft, what he's all about. So that's we should have mentioned that earlier. Like if you're not sure about an author, but you kind of want to give him a try, short stories are a great way to start.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, okay, well I've heard good things about this guy, but I don't want to read like their whole novel or
Mhm,
like I don't want to read her whole novella or something like that. Then yeah, try a short story by them.
mhm. Okay. Uh,
Oh, I should say I also I didn't do any repeat authors, so I just did.
Me neither. Me neither.
Okay,
Yeah. No, just because you mentioned Lovecraft, and I didn't plan to bring her up the author because I already talked a lot about her in another episode. But Sarah Monet has brought out the short story collection, The Bone Key, and I could recommend every short story in there. Like, but in very short, it's inspired by Lovecraft, and it's kind of an deconstruction of Lovecraft, and that
interesting.
just yeah, and that just reminded me of that, and I really liked it. It was, I think, um, on place two was it? Yeah, I think it was my second favorite book of last year. So
Oh,
just really throwing that out into nothingness.
good to know. Should I do another pick now, or do you want
Yeah, yeah, do.
to? Okay. Let's see. What was my second one? I'm quickly getting a reputation on the server as the Gene Wolfe guy, and almost all of the short stories that I read last year were by Gene Wolfe, and he is an incredible writer, and that also extends to his short stories. Um, he has dozens and dozens that I would recommend, but my favorite of all of his short stories I've read so far is called "The Death of Dr. Island."
Okay.
Uh, the Death of Dr. Island is one of many stories in what people call the Gene Wolfe archipelago, which also include um, the Island of the Death Doctor, um, uh, Doctor Death, the Island of Doctor Death, and other stories. Uh, Death, the Doctor of Death Island. They all include Island, Doctor, and Death in the title. But my favorite is called The Death of Dr. Island, and it's in the distant future, in I don't know, somewhere in our planetary system, and a very disturbed kid finds himself in a rehabilitation facility of a basically space station or an artificial moon of some planet. I don't remember where. Kip will probably kill me. But each patient has specialized therapy just for them, and it explores the ideas of consciousness and identity and reality and theogony, or like the nature of good and evil, and it's really interesting and actually quite moving. Um, so that sounds interesting to anyone else. I think you should check it out.
I really should read more Gene Wolfe. I think I have only read, yeah, I have only read the first part of Shadow of the Torturer.
It's a hard place to start. It's where most
Yeah,
people start, though.
it kind of broke me at the time.
It's not easy. It's hard to recommend people to start with short stories, especially because a lot of them are so difficult to find.
Mm,
But I think especially with Wolf, it's so many people go. They're like, "Oh, The Shadow of the Torture. It's really well regarded, and we hear it's genius and all this stuff." It's like really hard and really hard to get into.
mm.
So
And I,
maybe try
and
a
I,
short story.
yeah, and I think you, I think I have heard you have to get to the end to really appreciate it, even. Wasn't it like
I
that?
wouldn't say that. Knowing the ending and getting to the end does well. What G Wolf likes to do is he likes to flip the way you thought about everything that came
Ah, okay.
before several times throughout the story. So at like some point through book one, you realize something, and then like the way you thought about something from before is completely changed, and then he'll do
Mm.
that again and again and again, and that happens at the end as well. So, yep.
Okay. So, So, well, now really my first one.
Okay.
Um, so I have chosen The Six Steps of the Saint by Alix E. Harrow. And well, it's best to go in blind as it's kind of hard to explain it without spoilers, but I'll try.
Okay.
Um, it's basically about a young girl who can see a saint who is the saint of war. And at the very start of the short story, she gets picked up by a prince who makes her his knight. And everything else I would be saying would be spoilers.
Okay.
Yeah, like you have to go in pretty blind because there are a lot of twists there.
Okay.
And it just it's just really interesting because it uses a lot of interesting storytelling methods. Um, I also can't really talk about them because spoilers.
Okay.
But one of them I can say it uses really interestingly is the use of the second person. Like
Okay. Okay.
I cannot even continue because spoilers.
All right.
Yeah, but I can talk about the themes a little bit.
Okay.
Um, and it talks about like about war, about war crimes, manipulation, emotional abuse and abuse, and redemption, like all of those things. And it's
Sounds up my
really
alley. I might check
interesting.
it out.
Yeah, yeah. But like you can either read it on Kindle normally, like it came out in the do you know the Amazon short stories collections, or the like? You cannot really call it collections, but they're like they have a theme, and then they take some authors and say, "Hey, can you write something for us?" And then you have like a series kind of standalone short stories.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and this one is called Into the Shadow.
Into the Shadow. Cool.
Yeah,
That sounds interesting. I might check it out.
yeah, yeah. And the other, the where you also can find it is in the best American science fiction and fantasy short story collection of 2024.
Oh, wow. Okay. So did it come out this year or last year?
Uh, sorry, 2023. Free.
Okay, cool.
2024 comes out this year.
I
Yeah, yeah. Like it always talks about the short stories from the year ago.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, before.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So my third pick is Harrison Bergeron by Kurt Vonnegut. I think most people know Kurt Vonnegut from Cat's Cradle and Slaughterhouse Five.
I haven't
Um,
read neither of them.
but you've heard of them, yeah?
I don't think so. I don't think I've
Uh,
ever heard of them.
Slaughterhouse Five is the story of a man who's like unstuck in time, and
Oh.
he suffered like post traumatic stress disorder from the bombing of Dresden in World War II, and he's constantly living every single moment in time like at the same time,
Mm,
and it's a metaphor for PTSD and
mm,
war and trauma. It's really good and it's really funny and it's ridiculous. So Kurt Vonnegut, it does like sci-fi in a very satirical way. And Harrison Bergeron's the same way. Harrison Bergeron takes place in a dystopian nightmare future where equality is government mandated. So, for example, really smart people have to wear like dumbing down agents on their head, and
mm,
like tall people have to like get shortened, and see what else they got. Oh, like sometimes really athletic people have to wear like heavy clothes, so they have to slow down or something like that. Um, so it's a satirical take on egalitarianism and oppression and regimes and consequences, and I like it. I think it's funny. Check it out.
mm. Oh, that does sound interesting. Huh. Yeah. Oh. uh, my next one is a little bit weird. Like, uh, it's Zinda's Whale by Kelly Link. I don't know if you have heard of her. Okay, okay. Um, Kelly Link is very prolific and, well, in a way, highly regarded, like in the industry, but not a lot of people know her. Like you can imagine her a little bit like Ted Chiang. Was that his
Okay.
name? Yeah, like Ted Chiang in the kind of industry regard, also like how highly regarded she is. She's just not as well known in the general public. Um,
I need to read Chang. I've heard nothing but good things, and he writes short stories, so I should have I should have read some of
yeah.
his stuff before.
Well, I have only read one of his short stories, and I have just bought his short story collection, his first one, and I have to start it.
I hear it's very good, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But we are talking about Kelly Lynch now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, uh, and this short story is in her newest short story collection, White Cat, Black Dog, which is basically a short story collection about retellings. And this specific retelling is from Red Rose, White Rose? Is that the English name?
Red Rose, White Rose. I don't know. I haven't heard of it.
Oh, forgot it. Like I know this story very well because it's very well known in Germany, but I didn't know a lot of the other ones. Is it that one? No. Or was it just what was? Like the story about two sisters who find a bear, Snow White and Rose Red.
Snow White and Rose Red.
Yes.
Ah, here it is. Okay, I'm not familiar with it. No.
Okay. I I think it was the only fairy tale I recognized in that short story collection. Yeah, I think so. Um, But basically, it follows a student trying to do his final project, but because of, well, how should I say this? Um, because his roommate has has a new girlfriend and isn't very silent, he can't concentrate, and he takes up the offer of an old friend to go watch over an old cabin in the woods, and it just gets weirder from there.
Cool.
Yeah, like the girlfriend is haunted by a ghost, and in the cabin there there are random people who come out, come at night or in the day, and he has to let them in and such stuff, and it just gets very weird. But it's also very interesting. And themes, I have no idea. I have really no idea. Like all of her short stories are just very weird and in a way very very obscure. Like you would have to know the themes to understand what the themes are in a way.
Mhm.
But just the way she writes is enough to capture me and hold me interested in the short story.
Well, that could pull a lot of weight. Cool. Next.
Mhm.
All right. My next pick is an oldie but a goodie. I only recently read this year, and I wish I had read it sooner because people talk about this short story all the time as one of the best of all time, and they are totally and absolutely correct. And it is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas by Ursula K. Le Guin. Um, I'd rather not spoil it, but it's a heartbreaking tale that had me in tears by the end. But the story is entirely fabricated. I mean, all stories are fabricated, obviously, but it's explicitly fabricated by the narrator to the audience as a thought experiment. And even though it's a thought experiment, her excellent, incredible prose and thought-provoking themes had me, like I said, in tears by the end. And I could not recommend it enough. You can find it anywhere. Please check it out. It'll take like 10 minutes.
My next one. It's I wanted to. It's Witch's Fire by E. Lily Yu, and it's a very bleak story. And how should I? It's basically about the resurgence of the witch fires in the near future in America, and how fast it basically basically can go down from equality. And it's in the short story collection Jewel Box by E. Lily Yu, and it talks about propaganda, government corruption, violence against women, uh, also kind of religious warfare in a way, but you like that's kind of a stretch, I would say. So the last one,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you tell me the title again?
Uh, it should be called Witch's Fire.
Witch's Fire. Okay.
Yeah, but I can
I love Holy Wars.
like it's not quite holy wars. It's basically a man has a vendetta against women, and so he creates a cult, and he builds an incinerator, and then he goes around America incinerating women in the public.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very bleak. It's very bleak, but it's also incredibly well written.
I like Bleak. I prefer well written, but I like Bleak.
Yeah.
All right. My next is from your neck of the woods. I chose The Hunger Artist by Franz Kafka.
Mm.
Have you read Kafka?
No, neither.
No. I'm a big fan of Kafka.
Mm.
I know I might get in trouble for this, but he's kind of considered by many to be the progenitor of the magical realism movement. And he wrote in a very Kafka style. So he kind of wrote about bureaucracy and hell and how life is just hell and absurd. And he's caught up in modernism in the modern world. And The Hunger Artist is not so much that as it is like a meditation on art, the artists and the audience, and how they interact with each other, and how audiences often prey and eat the artists, metaphorically speaking, of course. Um, yeah, it's beautifully written. Its atmosphere is incredible, and the I forgot what I was going to say, but it's good. Check it out.
Mm. Yeah. But that fits with my next story.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's The Passing of the Dragon by Ken Liu. I don't know.
Ooh, I have him on my list too.
Yeah. He has some really good short stories. Like
Kinder's
I
amazing.
yeah, I I'm always trying to get to his short story collection, but for whatever reason I can get through it, even though I enjoy all of his short stories. At this point, it's really a cross. Um,
Okay.
yeah, but this specific short story follows an artist who sees an dragon, and then she paints a piece about the dragon. And at first, it kind of fades in obscurity until it randomly goes viral. And then it kind of follows the fallout of that. So it's not a lot of fantasy or even science fiction. It's a lot more magical realism in a way, and that's only in the beginning. Um, but I was just so captured by it because it kind of talked about about a lot of themes that are kind of important in our current world, like how artist blog, social media, mental health, like all of those things, and how mental health can be challenged by social media, and how the intention of the artist can be really quickly misconstrued over social media, and the good and bad about those things. And just in general, what social media plays in our current political world, I would say.
Something I love about Ken Liu is his ability to not only tug at your heartstrings, but when he tackles a theme or an idea, he does it with such nuance.
Mhm.
And it's more of something that he wants you to think about because he's thinking about it, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I'm still not quite sure if I agree with anything with everything said in the short story, but I just found it really interesting to think about it.
Well, I mean,
Just
those are the best ones in my opinion.
yeah, like it just challenges you to think, and I think that's just important.
Yeah. All right. My next one is Leaf by Niggle, uh, by J.R. Tolkien.
Mm.
Uh, I think if nobody's heard of Tolkien, maybe Google him. Quite famous. But Leaf by Niggle is kind of a story. It kind of feels like a G.K. Chesterton story. I've only read one of his, but looking back now, I can see how quite similar they are, and how there's a lot of levels of metaphorical content and theology working on top of each
Mm.
other, especially ideas of the afterlife. But this whole thing is about tackling motivation and work and procrastination and artistry. Um, and it's a short read and it's very good. I think it's
Mm.
worth a read.
Yeah, yeah. So my next one is John Hollowback and the Witch by Amal El-Mutar. And
He did that story with This Is How You Lose the Time War.
yes, that's one of the authors. Yes,
Yeah. He did it with Craft Sequence guy, Max
yeah,
Gladstone. Yeah.
Ex Gladstone. Yes, and that short story is well, it's more of a novelette, I think. But it's about a man called John who has a hole in his back, like really a
Hole in his
hole.
back.
Yes,
Okay.
and that's the reason he's called Hollowback.
Okay.
And he has to go to a witch to fix it. And to do this, he has to relive memories. And it goes from there. And it's in the anthology, The Book of Witches. And it touches upon a lot of themes like toxic masculinity, um, how should I say this? Envy in general, um, and abuse, also mainly emotional abuse and manipulation, those kinds of things. And it was a really, really great read. It was also very easy to read and beautiful to read. And I'm really excited for the author's next work, because I know she has an novella in the works, and it comes out either this year or next year. So yay!
Have you read anything else by her except This Is How You Lose the Time War and this story?
Oh God, I have read another short story by her. Like she hasn't a lot of works out, so there isn't a lot to read. But I have read I think two short stories by her, and that's This Is How You Lose the Time War.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, my next pick is also by Ken Liu.
Mm.
Um, this is a very, very special and a very personal story for me because it directly is uh, more than most things I've read, very directly related to things in my own life. And we we, as in Ash, myself, and Panda, did a talk with the Critical Dragon on YouTube about this short story. And I cannot recommend that video and this short story highly enough. I think it's incredible, and I think if anybody reads it and they are not reduced to tears by the end, they might not have a heart. But it's The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu, and it's about uh, an American boy whose mother is Chinese, and he gets bullied, and his relationship with his mother, and he gets older. And I don't want to say anything more, but
Mm,
it's some emotional stuff.
mm. Yeah. My next one is Angel Monster Man by Sam J. Miller. And it follows three queer friends who sit down and accidentally create a new entity.
Like a homunculus.
Complicated. Like
Okay.
the title is kind of refers to that, like a Angel Monster Man. And yeah, so it's kind of complicated to explain. And but you can basically read it in the short story collection Boys, Beasts, and Men by Sam J. Miller.
Yeah.
And God, I can't quite remember, but I think it takes place during the AIDS crisis also. So it uses a lot of themes of that time, and there's a lot of rage and anger in the short story about the time. And yeah, I don't want to say too much about it because you should go into it kind of blind, I would say, to really experience the emotions the characters felt.
My next story is A Rose for Ecclesiastes by Roger Zelazny.
Mm.
And it's a colonial story about colonizing Mars and interacting with the Martians. And the Martian culture is on a decline, maybe because people came, maybe not. Um, and kind of how these two groups interact with each other. But it's also kind of about finding meaning and about language and time, debt, mortality, that kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, like most Roger Zelazny stuff, it's very beautifully written and it's interesting. Roger stuff is always really, really interesting, and it also is often about religion or thought-provoking themes are always present in his stories.
Mm. The next one I chose is kind of a departure in the sense it's a lot more about just fun in a way. Like it has its themes, of course, but it's more a lot more funny in a way. Um, and it's As Good as New by Charlie Jane Anders. And it follows a woman who survived the apocalypse as the last living human on Earth. And the question is, what happens if that woman then finds a genie? And it kind of goes from there. And yeah, you can find a short story in the collection Even Greater Mistakes by Charlie Jane Anders. And like the themes are kind of more personal to the character. Like it isn't really about the apocalypse, but more about the character. Like again, artist block, kind of self-doubt, second chances, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Oh, I need to read more genie stories because I always like them.
Mm, yeah. I also had to look up what word she used. Like I had to get my short story collection out and page through it to be sure to use the correct one because uh, I just know there there are different words for genie or in general for Middle Eastern mythological create la. I don't want to say
Mythology,
monsters. Hmm?
mythology, creatures,
Yes, yes. I
mythological
don't.
beings.
Yes. I just don't want to say monsters because there aren't really monsters. They are a lot more nuanced than that. Because I don't know a lot about them, but I know there are different words kind of depending on the region, like genie, jinn. Like I don't really know the difference between all of them, but I just wanted to make sure that I had a right one in this case.
Oh, I didn't know there was a difference. I just thought it was different spelling for the same thing.
I'm not sure either. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
just know I just have heard that it's important to do uh, use the right word for the for what's used in the story always because there's some kind of difference there.
I see. All right. My next story is Adieu by Connie Willis. Connie Willis is most famous for her, was it Gale? No, she did like To Say Nothing of the Dog and Doomsday Book, like her time travel series. But this is kind of a satirical take on uh, censorship and political correctness. So it follows it. It's very, very short, but I thought it was hilarious and I really liked it, so I'm sharing it. Um, and it follows a teacher in the not so distant future where, like, literally everything in their English class is challenged by outside forces, whether it be mothers or whether it be I made a list of some of the people who are making complaints about usually Shakespeare, which is where the title comes from. Like they couldn't do Richard III because Richard killed some children in the story, and they couldn't do Midsummer Night's Dream because it has witchcraft. Um, uh, they all of the historical plays were banned because the Royal Society for the Restoration of the Divine Right of Kings complained. Uh, Taming of the Shrew was no good because of the Angry Woman's Alliance. Morticians internationally objected on the grounds of people just dying, I guess. And then, like, environmental groups were complaining that somebody carved their names in the tree. Sword enthusiasts were objecting to people saying swords kill because people kill people, not swords. And so like it's just like joke on joke on joke on ridiculousness on ridiculousness on ridiculousness, but it still kind of hits close to home. Yeah, so check it out. It's short. Censorship, no good.
My next one is Colors of the Immortal Palette by forgot it. Caroline M. Valenta. Oh God. I'm so sorry. Well, I definitely said it wrong, I think. I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
But it's basically about a female model who, also in the, I think, 1900s, was it? Maybe 2000s, somewhere along the line, who wants to step out of her role as a muse and become a well-known artist, and regardless of the cost. And yeah, it it's kind of about immortality and love and equality in the sense of having the same job opportunities, and how with time a lot of things can get better, and also how should I say this without spoiling anything? Um, yeah, I won't say anything because I think that's gonna spoil it. Um, but you can basically you can read it for free on the Uncanny Magazine website, or you can read it in physical in the 2022 edition of Best American Science Fiction Series.
Good to know. Cool. Sounds good. My penultimate choice. Also, by the way, mine are not ranked. I just kind of wrote them down in order of like me remembering them.
Mhm.
So my penultimate choice was Speech Sounds by Octavia Butler. Butler is most famous for Kindred, which is so good and so messed up and will make you cry. And she also did the Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. This story is more similar to probably the Parable of the Sower. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world in which a virus has destroyed people's ability to speak and understand. It follows a woman who can still speak and understand people, and she meets a guy who's immune, but he's really, really violent, and it's kind of about empathy and communication and civilization. I would check it out. I mean, if you're just even a little bit curious about Octavia Butler, it's a
Mm,
pretty good bite-sized chunk of what it's all about.
yeah. I have only read, I think, Blood Children is the name from the short story.
Blood Magic?
Uh, uh, the one where humans are on a different planet and they have kind of a symbiotic relationship with not symbiotic, just a relationship with the aliens there, and it's kind of about pregnancy.
Cool. I don't know, but sounds cool.
Okay, yeah, that one was interesting, definitely, but it's not my next one. Yeah, no, my next one is The Thief Come Out at Night by Sammy Ellis. And it's about a female student who has to steal thieves from children and sell them so she can stay afloat and afford her college bills. And one day, suddenly, all the teeth she harvests begin to rot, and yeah, it just goes from there.
Teeth begin to rot.
Yeah, they begin to rot like almost immediately.
Gross.
Yeah, yeah, and it goes from there kind of. And you can find the short story collection in the anthology All These Sunken Souls. And it talks about poverty, student death, what you are willing to do in those kinds of crises. Yeah.
Ooh, all right. Shall I share my last pick? I chose Thus We Frustrate Charlemagne by R.A. Lafferty. Um, I wish I had read R.A. Lafferty sooner. The dude is obviously very smart, much smarter than I am.
Mhm.
But Thus We Frustrate Charlemagne is actually a really, I don't want to say whimsical, but it's kind of like absurdist and kind of funny. It's really funny. It's kind of like a story of people discussing changing the past. And it, like every time that they change the past, they don't remember that they changed the past. And so like you only get like their POV and like they're like, okay, well, I think we're going to go to the 1400s and we're going to change this little thing and that's going to have this kind of effect. And then the next scene, they're like, well, that didn't work. From our perspective, it obviously worked because they're talking about all this stuff that's different from like a couple minutes ago. It's really funny, kind of like about free world determinism and historical causality and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I really like it, and it's funny.
Yeah. My last one is The Captain and the Quartermaster by C.L. Clarke. And it follows two women who are both in the rebellion against the tyrants and they fall in love in the process.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it, how should I say? I I never read a short story of that kind. Like I don't know how much I should say without spoiling too much because but I haven't ever read this kind of character relationship progression kind of thing, like how the relationship progressed, and I really liked how the relationship progressed, and I need more of it.
Mm.
Yeah, but you can read it for free on the Beneath the Ceaseless Skies website. And you can read it in one of the best American science fiction and fantasy series, but I can't remember which one right now.
I like how you tell everybody where they can read it. I'm not
Yeah,
doing that at all.
yeah. I just thought, yeah, it's easier when they know where to find it. Yeah, uh, but it discusses the themes of war, queer relationships, also toxic relationships, and a lot more.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Based on your description, I think I'm going to check out at least a few of your uh, shared short stories. So thank you.
Yeah.
So before we go, we got one more question. Starcast, if you could decide any author who could bring out a new short story collection, who would it be and presumably why.
Okay, I have three offers. Offers I really want to see more of. Two of them haven't won out yet. One of them has already. But for once, it's the Clark, also the author who wrote the Captain and the Quartermaster. And I just really want to see more short stories of this kind from her, and just in general with different queer relationships. And I really hope she brings out such a short story collection maybe one day.
I hope
Um,
so.
yeah. Also, Arkady Martin, the author of the Tax Clan duology, a memory of empire, and what's the other? A desolation called peace. And I just really love her writing style and the way she world builds. So I just want to have more words from her, and like in the way that I can sink my teeth in. Just yeah. And the last one is N.K. Jemisin, because I really enjoyed her last short story collection, and I really want more from her.
Which was that called?
Hmm?
What was that short story collection called?
Also, wait, I have written it down. How long till Black Future Month?
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Do you have any?
I don't really have anything off the top of my
Mm.
head. I want a short story collection from my favorite author, Stephen Erickson, who has always said that he is a short story author, and that he learned his writing short stories, and that the Malazan Book of the Fallen is like a collection of short stories, but he hasn't released any of his short stories. We have some of his novellas that are quite long, and I love them. But yeah, I would love to see a short story collection from Stephen Erickson. I doubt he's listening, but Steve, if you're listening, please give us a short story collection. It doesn't have to be Malazan; it could be anything. I'll read it.
It doesn't even have to be long.
Yeah, it needs to be short. Actually, that's part of the
Yeah,
part of
I
the
mean
deal.
more like it doesn't have to be a lot of short stories. I
Oh
think
yeah,
I think the shortest ones I have seen are a little more than 200 pages.
yep, that's the idea. All right, so shall we stop there?
We can stop here.
All right, Starcast has been a pleasure. I gotta say goodbye. So that concludes this episode. You can find us in the Legendarium's Discord. Please come. It's a lot of fun. Everyone's nice. Um, we got Twitter, we got Patreon. Just use Google. You guys know how to do Google. Um, thanks to Horizon Brave, and thanks to Jingle Punks who wrote our music. And my name is Hurin, and I'm here with Starcast.
Yeah, bye.